Have you ever wondered how England got its name? It's not from the Romans who built cities here, or the Celts who lived here for centuries before. The story of England, and indeed the English language, begins with a group of fierce, adventurous people who crossed the North Sea in longships, the Anglo-Saxons. Let's dive into their incredible story, from scattered tribes to powerful kingdoms. Our story starts in the 5th century. The mighty Roman Empire, which had ruled Britain for nearly 400 years, was crumbling. Their legions were recalled to defend Rome, leaving the Romano-British population vulnerable. Imagine living in a well-ordered society with stone villas and paved roads, and then suddenly the protectors are gone. Raiders from Ireland and Scotland, the Scoti and the Picts, began to terrorize the coasts. The British needed new defenders, and they looked across the sea for help. They invited warriors from what is now modern-day Germany and Denmark. These weren't a single people, but a collection of Germanic tribes, primarily the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. The British warlord Vortigern is said to have hired Saxon mercenaries, led by the legendary brothers Hengist and Horsa, to fight off the Picts. He offered them land in the southeast, in Kent, as payment. At first, this arrangement worked. The mercenaries did their job. But they soon saw how rich and fertile Britain was, and how weak its defenses had become. More and more of their people started arriving, not as hired fighters, but as settlers, looking for a new home. The invitation had turned into an invasion. What followed was a long, brutal period of conflict. The Anglo-Saxons weren't just raiding, they were migrating. They brought their families, their language, their gods, and their way of life. They pushed the native Britons, the ancestors of the modern Welsh, Cornish, and Bretons, westward into the mountains of Wales and the peninsula of Cornwall. This wasn't a quick conquest. It was a slow, grinding process that lasted for over a century. Figures like the legendary King Arthur are thought to have been Romano-British leaders who fought back against this tide, but ultimately, the Anglo-Saxons were unstoppable. As they settled, they didn't form one big country. Instead, they established numerous small, independent kingdoms. Think of it like a real-life Game of Thrones, a patchwork of competing territories. Over time, these smaller kingdoms consolidated into 7 major ones, which historians now call the Heptarchy. You had Northumbria in the north, a great center of learning and culture. There was Mercia in the Midlands, a powerful and often dominant kingdom. East Anglia, where the famous Sutton whose ship burial was discovered. Essex, Sussex, and Wessex, the kingdoms of the East, South, and West Saxons. And finally, Kent, the kingdom of the Jutes. Life in these early kingdoms was centered around the tribe and the loyalty to a local lord or king. They were pagan peoples, worshipping a pantheon of gods like Woden, the chief of the gods, and Thunor, the god of thunder. You might recognize those names. They gave us Wednesday Woden's Day and Thursday Thunor's Day. They were farmers and warriors, living in wooden halls, telling epic poems like Beowulf around the fire, celebrating bravery and glory in battle. But a huge change was on the horizon. In 597 AD, the Pope sent a missionary named Augustine to Kent. His mission, to convert these pagan Anglo-Saxons to Christianity. He was surprisingly successful. King Ethelbert of Kent converted, and slowly but surely, Christianity spread throughout the other kingdoms. This was a pivotal moment. The new religion brought with it Latin, writing, and new ideas about law and kingship. It connected the once isolated Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to the wider European world. Monasteries like Lindisfarne in Northumbria became beacons of art and literature, producing beautiful illuminated manuscripts. This shared religion helped to unify the Anglo-Saxons. The constant warfare between the kingdoms began to subside, although rivalries remained. Powerful kings, known as Bretwaldas or Britain rulers, emerged, holding influence over the other kingdoms. First, Northumbria was dominant, then Mercia under its powerful king, Offa, who famously built a massive earthwork, Offa's Dyke, to mark the border with Wales. Finally, the mantle of power passed to Wessex, under a king you've almost certainly heard of, Alfred the Great. Alfred's reign in the late 9th century marked the beginning of the end for the Heptarchy and the start of a new chapter. He wasn't just a warrior who famously defended his kingdom against a new wave of invaders, the Vikings. He was also a scholar and a lawgiver. He believed that all freeborn Englishmen should learn to read and write in their own language, English. Alfred and his successors didn't just defend Wessex. They began a campaign to push back the Vikings and unite the various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms under one rule. It was Alfred's grandson, Aethelstan, who is considered by many to be the first true king of England. In 937, he won a decisive victory at the Battle of Brunanburh, defeating a combined army of Vikings, Scots, and Britons. For the first time, the land we now call England was united under a single ruler. From a chaotic migration of Germanic tribes to a collection of warring kingdoms, and finally, to a unified Christian nation, the rise of the Anglo-Saxons is the foundational story of England. They laid the groundwork for English law, culture, and, most importantly, the English language that we're speaking right now. Their journey was one of conflict, settlement, and transformation, a turbulent but crucial period that forged a new identity on the island of Britain. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more fascinating stories from history, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments which part of Anglo-Saxon history you find most interesting. See you in the next video.